Hi everyone, my name is Jonathan Perez and I'm going to be covering a literature review combating juvenile crime. There's no one specific way when it comes down to dealing with juveniles. Overall, dealing with a juvenile presents its own challenges. It requires a lot of patience and understanding. We don't want to be too harsh nor too lenient for juvenile offenders. However, we do want to hold them accountable for their actions. We don't want to send the wrong message letting them know they can get away with whatever crime they have done. As a country, we do spend millions of dollars in programs that are meant to either control them or rehabilitate them. One program in particular is sending juveniles into adult prisons. In the research conducted by Butts and Mares, they noted that the justice system overall had moved away from individual intervention and treatment for juvenile offenders. They noted that the justice process had become more concerned with the severity of the offense and making sure those involved received the appropriate punishment. This is instead of trying to rehabilitate them, which has proven to reduce recidivism. In the research, the authors found that some states have opted to send juvenile offenders into adult criminal court whenever certain conditions were met. It's easier to put them away. However, based on their research, it was noted that transferring juveniles into adult courts had little to no effect. As a matter of fact, they often receive similar sentences as those they would have received in juvenile courts. Intense supervision is another program that was designed in an attempt to control juvenile crime. According to Frederick, a more harsh intervention by the justice system points to a school-based probation that involves a more intensive supervision for juveniles on probation. These type of programs place a probation officer in the school rather than in the traditional office, which allows a probation officer greater contact with the juveniles. The purpose of this measure was to reduce recidivism in juveniles. This type of program functions under the idea of punishing juveniles that misbehave and to increase public safety. School-based probation has gained popularity among schools. Based on Frederick's research, the school-based probation programs show no evidence of reduction of recidivism among juveniles. The author calls for this program to be scrutinized before it's widely implemented and accepted. Another program that is aimed to try to control juvenile crime is more police presence in schools. According to McElwain and Posawa, they evaluated a program that was implemented in the school district in Southern California. The program was aimed to control crime in schools. The authors evaluated a jail community intervention team and conducted interviews with the principal and deputy chief, who were both valuable members of the creation of the program. McElwain and Posawa determined that such programs show positive evidence in reducing school crime overall. The same authors evaluated the data gathered in Texas. This program was called Specialized Treatment and Rehabilitation, STAR. The STAR was run as a boot camp and the results were mixed. The authors found that the parents were satisfied with the program, however, it did not reduce delinquency rates in juveniles. A closer eye on delinquency. SEEK found that Pinellas County, Florida, an epidemic of juvenile auto thefts were occurring. In response to the auto theft epidemic, Pinellas County launched a strategy dedicated to combat the juvenile repeated offenders. The initiative is called the Habitual Offender Monitoring Enforcement. This task force is in charge of monitoring repeated juvenile offenders with the intention of stopping them before they reoffend and go through the justice system again. Originally, this program was actually created with the intention to stop them from going into the justice system again and from committing crimes again. Home can implement curfews and home detentions for repeated juvenile offenders. Officers can regularly check in with them. According to SEEK, juveniles that were being monitored under the home program were arrested at much higher rates than the juveniles that were monitored. Furthermore, the author found that the arrest rates not only were they high when the program was first evaluated, but they continued to increase during subsequent years. So it started out as as a program that aimed to actually helping the juveniles stay out of prison, but they actually ended up putting in prison at a faster rate, treated fairly. So all Al-Masih concentrated research on probation officers with the notion that probation officers are the ones who have the most contact with delinquent youths in the juvenile system. During their research, the authors found that probation officers vary in their attitude toward punishment and rehabilitation. This is done with the intention of tailoring a treatment plan to an individual rather than just generalizing a treatment plan. The author noted biases in the juvenile justice system, favoring white youths over youths of color and male offenders over female offenders. This was reflected in two separate studies. This is actually one of the most important things I actually learned is the consequences of going through the justice system at an early age. Kirk and Sampson research is not attempting to find alternative methods with dealing with juveniles, but instead aims to demonstrate the effects it has on juveniles when they are put through the justice system. In their research, the authors found that a large amount of high school dropouts were at some point pushed through the justice system. Juveniles that were arrested became less desirable by school staff members, often blocking them from entering the school system or excluding them overall from the school district. The authors found that schools, particularly in the Chicago public system, excluded juveniles with criminal records to avoid accountability of them. Through the investigations, the author revealed that schools in CPS blocked juveniles with criminal records to preserve their test scores, graduation statistics, among other factors that could make the school look bad. A student that had nothing to do with the juvenile system had 64% graduation rate compared to those that did not. The juveniles that were put through the justice system only had 26% graduation rate, and that is not even counting college. Preventative programs. Mann and Reynolds concentrated research in early education intervention. The authors found that preschool intervention programs were associated with a reduction of delinquency in juveniles. They evaluated a program that was developed and implemented in Chicago public schools. The Chicago Child Parent Center program was founded on the belief that a continuity of educational care between preschool and primary schools fostered bonds between children, parents, and schools. In their research, they found that children who make frequent school moves are less likely to have bonding and social experiences with teachers and peers. Participation in an established early childhood intervention for low-income children was associated with better education and social outcomes up to the age of 20 years. These findings are among the strongest evidence that established programs administered through the public schools can promote children's long-term success. What actually works? Hampton concentrates the research on determining effective strategies in regards to reducing recidivism rate for juveniles. The author analyzed the effectiveness of the assessment division, a new program implemented by the Davidson County Juvenile Justice Center, aimed to address the needs of the juveniles. Hampton noted that this particular approach aims to rehabilitate the juvenile while providing quality services. This particular division attempts to solve the problem from its core by identifying the individual needs of the juvenile and their families. The assessment process involves case officers that meet with the families of the juvenile involved to get a better understanding of the juvenile and his family to determine the appropriate services both juvenile and family need. This particular approach was generating a positive result in reducing the overall amount of juveniles that enter the justice system. The author noted that while age and gender did not play a role in recidivism, race was not an issue when it came down to recidivism. Evaluation of the programs. Greenwood reviewed methods used to identify the best programs that serve as prevention, intervention, and cost-effective. According to Greenwood, established programs and those emerging as alternatives should be compared equally under the same scope to determine their efficiency and cost-effectiveness. The author notes that all programs should be evaluated in their totality to include a possible emergence combination with other programs as possible. Greenwood noted that some programs at glance might not be cost-effective at all, but when used in combination with other programs, the benefit exceeds the cost. Programs overall have a small lifespan, and this is due to political agendas. If they don't work, they usually just get them out. During the author research, it was noted programs evaluate and measure their own success in different ways. The author calls for a more consistent way to evaluate and measure program success to include cost and efficiency. Greenwood emphasizes that no program should be allowed to replicate and be implemented on a wide scale before they have proven their success. Conclusion: harsh taxes when dealing with juvenile offenders are ineffective. Putting them in prison will not solve the juvenile delinquency problem. We need alternative methods when dealing with juvenile offenders since they have the rest of their lives ahead of them. We need to create a more consistent way to evaluate and measure program success to include cost efficiency. Thank you for listening and have a good week.